On the night of November 30th, 2020, just after midnight, the city of Criciúma, located in the Brazilian state of Santa Catarina, appeared to be enjoying an ordinary, peaceful night. Home to nearly 220,000 residents, its streets were almost completely empty as most people slept, unaware that within minutes, their city would become the stage for one of the most sophisticated and audacious bank robberies in Brazilian history. While the city rested, a heavily armed criminal organization consisting of approximately 30 men quietly entered Criciúma from multiple directions after spending several months preparing every detail of the operation. These were not ordinary robbers acting on impulse. Every member had a precisely assigned role. One team would enter the bank itself, another would keep local police units occupied, while additional groups would block major roads throughout the city to isolate the area and delay any organized response. Before the operation even began, stolen vehicles had already been positioned across strategic intersections. Escape routes had been carefully selected, explosives were placed in key locations, and radio communication between every team had been tested repeatedly. Their target was the Banco do Brasil branch located in the heart of the city. According to investigators, their primary objective was the bank's cash vault, where millions of Brazilian reais were stored. The operation had been planned with extraordinary precision, leaving almost nothing to chance. Every movement had been rehearsed, every route calculated, and every participant knew exactly what to do down to the very second. Shortly after midnight, the silence of the city was shattered by bursts of automatic gunfire echoing through the streets. Panic spread almost instantly as heavily armed criminals fired into the air and toward responding police units, creating confusion across the city center. Explosive devices were placed around the bank and nearby intersections. Several vehicles were deliberately set on fire, and major roads leading into downtown Criciúma were completely blocked. At the same time, another tactical group forced its way into the bank and advanced toward the vault, using powerful explosives to breach reinforced security doors. The local police force was relatively small and completely unprepared for an operation of this scale. The first responding patrol officers quickly realized they were facing a highly organized and heavily armed group, far beyond anything they had encountered before. Unable to match the criminals' firepower, several patrol units were forced to retreat while waiting for reinforcements. Throughout the city, terrified residents watched from their apartment windows as flashes of gunfire illuminated the night sky. Thick smoke filled the streets, and explosions echoed between buildings. Many witnesses later described the scene as resembling a military operation, rather than a conventional bank robbery. But the attackers were not simply stealing money. Their true objective was to paralyze the city's entire security system by launching multiple coordinated attacks simultaneously, preventing law enforcement from organizing an effective response before the robbery had already been completed.
One of the most disturbing aspects of the operation was the way the criminals controlled the streets during their escape. As police units slowly began arriving from neighboring cities, several civilians who happened to be near the bank were forced into the middle of the roadway and used as human shields. Video footage recorded that night showed frightened people walking with their hands raised while heavily armed gunmen moved behind them, making it nearly impossible for police snipers to take a clear shot. Every second of hesitation bought the robbers more time. Hundreds of additional officers would eventually be deployed throughout the region, but during the first crucial minutes, the criminals maintained complete control over the city center. Their escape routes had been carefully planned long before the robbery began. Several roads leading out of Criciúma had already been prepared with abandoned vehicles and explosive devices designed to slow pursuing officers. As police cautiously approached each blocked intersection, bomb disposal teams were forced to inspect suspicious objects before allowing anyone to continue the chase. By the time larger tactical units arrived, the convoy carrying the stolen money had already disappeared into the darkness. The attack left one police officer dead, several civilians injured, and an entire city traumatized. For hours, residents remained inside their homes, while local television stations broadcast live images of smoke, burning vehicles, and continuous gunfire. The night quickly became known throughout Brazil as the Night of Terror. Inside the bank, the robbery unfolded with astonishing speed. After breaching multiple security barriers, the attackers reached the cash vault and loaded enormous amounts of currency into large duffel bags prepared specifically for the operation. Investigators estimated that approximately 120 million Brazilian reais, worth around 22 to 23 million US dollars at the time, were stolen. During the escape, some bags reportedly tore open, scattering banknotes across nearby streets. By sunrise, shocked residents discovered loose cash lying on sidewalks and roadways, while police attempted to secure the crime scene. However, only a small fraction of the stolen money was ever recovered there. Most of the cash disappeared together with the convoy. Investigators later concluded that the criminals had taken extensive precautions to avoid leaving behind forensic evidence. Gloves had been worn throughout the operation, several getaway vehicles were abandoned and burned, communication devices were used sparingly, and transportation routes had been changed multiple times during the escape. Even so, surveillance footage, ballistic evidence, fragments of explosives, vehicle tracking data, and hundreds of witness statements gradually allowed investigators to reconstruct much of what had happened. As the investigation expanded, authorities increasingly suspected that individuals connected to Primeiro Comando da Capital, commonly known as PCC, one of Brazil's most powerful criminal organizations, had either organized or assisted in planning the operation. In the months that followed, coordinated police raids across several Brazilian states led to numerous arrests, the seizure of millions of reais in cash, firearms, vehicles, ammunition, and additional evidence believed to be connected to the network behind the robbery.
Although millions of dollars had disappeared overnight, investigators soon realized that the money itself was only part of the story. What truly shocked security experts around the world was the extraordinary level of coordination demonstrated during the attack. Brazilian authorities identified the operation as a textbook example of the criminal strategy known as Novo Cangaço. Unlike traditional bank robberies carried out by a handful of offenders, this tactic involves large, heavily armed groups attacking smaller cities with overwhelming force. Their objective is not only to rob the bank, but also to isolate the entire area by blocking roads, disabling police response, spreading fear among civilians, and creating enough confusion to escape before reinforcements can arrive. Security analysts believe the Criciúma operation was planned over several months rather than a few weeks. The criminals reportedly studied police patrol schedules, traffic patterns, surveillance camera locations, access roads, and even the time required for tactical reinforcements to reach the city. Every stage of the operation appeared to have been carefully calculated. For investigators, it became clear that this was far more than a simple robbery. It was a military-style operation executed with remarkable discipline. In response, Brazilian authorities introduced stricter security measures at financial institutions, strengthened coordination between regional police departments, and reviewed emergency response procedures to reduce the likelihood of similar attacks in the future. Years have passed since that unforgettable night, yet the Criciúma bank robbery continues to be studied by law enforcement agencies and security specialists across the world. It remains one of the most daring and professionally organized bank heists ever carried out in modern history. In the span of just a few hours, an ordinary city was transformed into what looked like a battlefield. Millions of dollars vanished, streets were filled with gunfire and explosions, and countless people watched the shocking events unfold live on television. The robbery demonstrated how a highly organized criminal network could temporarily overwhelm an entire city's security system through meticulous planning and coordinated execution. At the same time, it also proved that even the most sophisticated criminal operations leave behind traces that investigators can follow. Years of police work, forensic analysis, surveillance footage, witness testimony, and coordinated raids gradually uncovered significant parts of the organization responsible for the attack. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the entire story was not the enormous amount of money that was stolen, but the realization that within a single night, an ordinary community was turned into a war zone by a carefully organized criminal operation. Even today, the events of November 30th, 2020 remain one of the most unforgettable chapters in Brazil's criminal history, reminding the world that reality can sometimes be even more astonishing than fiction. If you enjoy true stories, unsolved mysteries, and extraordinary real-life events like this, don't forget to subscribe to the Banco channel and leave a like on the video. There's always another unbelievable story waiting to be told.